driver, Chase Elliott, broke his tibia snowboarding in Colorado over this past week. And he will be out for at least the foreseeable future. He underwent surgery Friday night. Josh Berry will drive the car in his place. Obviously, Josh, short track star, kind of made his way up and just needed a shot. And Dale Jr. finally was able to put him in an Xfinity car. And now he's getting to run the Hendrick Motorsports number 9. So talk about a glow up. But before we get to that, Chase Elliott, Seth, how do you feel about this? About Chase kind of injuring himself and kind of hurting the team for the foreseeable future, just on an extracurricular activity?
Yeah. So I don't really know anything about snowboarding, so I don't really know how dangerous it is. It seems pretty dangerous from some of the horror stories I've heard, or at least, but those are just the crazy ones. I don't know. I can't really talk that much because Kyle Larson goes out and runs fucking sprint cars 3 to 4 times a week sometimes.
Yeah.
During the season, which
Alex Bowman
does it. So you could easily get injured severely doing that. We saw Tony Stewart in 2013 was out for the last half of the season.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to jump down Chase's throat for this.
No.
At all.
That's kind of where I'm at. I mean, the man's got to live his life. Yeah. It's simple as that. Now, extracurricular activities for Hendrick Motorsports might be on hold for a little bit for any of the drivers. I would imagine maybe. Now, Jeff Andrews did say that, he kind of echoed what I just said and said, these guys got to live their lives. But I imagine maybe there might be some limitations during the season, at least for HMS drivers going forward. Because, I mean, really before Kyle Larson, really it was before what, Chase?
Pretty much, but even then, Chase didn't do that much.
It was, not a lot of Rick never liked his drivers going and running other races. Like Casey Kane, didn't get to run as many, sprint car races, dirt races as he wanted to do, just because Rick kind of protected their drivers. And Joe Gibbs has been the same way, but once Chase Elliott kind of branched out. Kyle Larson, obviously, we know Kyle Larson. He's racing something every night. It kind of lifted those limitations for these drivers. And, you see all 4 of them. William Byron's racing a late model every other weekend. Alex Bowman owns a dirt team. These guys are going out and doing all these things. And shit happens, really.
Yeah. I would almost argue that it's been a net benefit, even with the Chase Elliott injury. It's been a major net benefit for Hendrick Motorsports because I feel like the team's performance has gone up significantly.
They are definitely returning to form, to the form that they had back in the mid 2000s when they were winning half the races in the season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean. Again, Jeff Andrews said it best. He's like, Chase could have gotten the same injury tripping on a curb.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, life happens and it's terrible. Chase, I mean, we all know Chase Elliott. He's probably beating himself up quite a bit about this, and he shouldn't be. It's just kind of one of them things. Now the question becomes playoff waiver, and this is a hot topic.
Yeah, it is.
I made a statement on Twitter about this. What's your opinion on waivers?
So my opinion on waivers is it should be absolutely not, unless you were wrongfully suspended or got hurt in a cup car that we knew was dangerous.
Yeah.
Basically. But so there's two sides of the argument. Obviously, there's the precedent side, and we gave Tony Stewart 2 waivers for injuries that happened, or not, one for an injury that happened outside of NASCAR, and then one for
the Kevin Ward incident. Yeah.
We gave Matt
I mean, you
Kenseth
don't need to
won.
go through every
Yeah,
single
okay.
one.
Anyway, okay, so the precedent side says, yeah, he absolutely should because he should get one because precedent. The actual competition side of me says we need to stop that. That
Yeah.
needs to be, we need to not do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the very few instances where I felt a playoff waiver is justified. Um, Kurt Busch, obviously, was suspended when he had the ongoing assault charges that were brought upon him that turned out to not be true. NASCAR suspended him for 3 weeks because of that. I think that was absolutely, I think a suspension, I was telling you this yesterday, a suspension for by NASCAR, I think I think obviously there's probably some, if it's like for drugs or something like that, maybe you shouldn't be granted a waiver, but a suspension by NASCAR, I feel like you should be granted a waiver because yeah, you might have done something wrong on track or, whatever, but you still had the intent to run the full schedule, but you were taken out by the sanctioning body. Kyle Busch, 2015, breaks his leg in Daytona. I'm on the fence on whether that should have been a waiver, given a waiver. I mean, because he was competing in something that wasn't the NASCAR Cup Series and doing something he didn't have to be doing to, meet the criteria that NASCAR set in place to make the playoffs. But then you have, instances like Grant Enfinger in 2021 where he just ran out of funding and lost his ride and missed 1 week and he couldn't get granted a waiver. He had the intent of running the full season. He declared points for the full season and they didn't give it to him. And I felt like they got that completely backwards. But NASCAR not giving Chase Elliott a waiver, it's definitely the right thing to do. NASCAR giving Chase Elliott a waiver is the right thing to do. It just depends on what side of the fence you're on, really. Because, I mean, it's like you said, precedent says, yes, give him the waiver. Legitimacy in these playoffs, no, shouldn't. But
And
you
this is
got to give
why,
it. You have to give it to him.
yeah. But this is why I was so up in arms about getting rid of the top 30 rule completely instead of making it the top 20 rule or something like that. That would have completely made this irrelevant because if Chase could have gotten in like the top 20 with a win or two, probably at least, then it wouldn't matter.